Hi, I'm Dave from Alfie Cameras, and we're going to be doing a series of videos on YouTube about how we've developed the new Alfie BOXX camera. We'll be covering everything from the R&D process right through to how we develop the mechanisms and the design to the manufacture of it. This is the first of those videos, and I'm going to be talking about how I designed the 100mm lens on the new camera. I've come outside for this bit so I can demonstrate something. So we wanted a simple lens design, one which could be manufactured for a reasonable cost but still provide a good quality image, maybe with a bit of character. So a loss of sharpness towards the corners would be nice, or maybe a bit of vignette at the edges. Going back to the earliest days of photography, there were a number of single element lens designs that were popular. Biconvex and plano-convex lenses were often used, but suffered from significant aberrations off-center from the image. You can see this issue if I demonstrate with these lenses by projecting an image on a sheet of paper. You can see the issue with these lenses projected on this sheet of paper. The biconvex lens, which is curved on both sides, can produce a sharp image at the center, but very quickly loses sharpness. An English chemist called William Hyde Wollaston developed a lens in 1812 for the camera obscura that consisted of a single meniscus lens and an aperture or stop. This was adapted by photographers at the time and is known as the Wollaston landscape lens. The lens was designed to produce a sharper image over a wider field of view than a simple biconvex lens. It was this design that we wanted to reproduce in the BOXX camera, although initially we've made some changes in order to make the lens more compact. For the Wollaston lens, you need a meniscus lens element with an aperture. Now, because we're dealing with such a simple single element lens, you can buy these off the shelf. So I purchased this from Edmund Optics. They're not a sponsor of the video, and you can probably see what that is doing to the image through there. This is a 100mm meniscus lens. That's just 1 inch diameter. So we could have designed our camera to have a fixed focus lens where the lens doesn't move, but that could be quite limiting for your composition, especially with the size of film we're dealing with. So what we actually need is a focusing mechanism, and that's a way of getting this lens to move in parallel to the film, backwards and forwards, to allow the camera operator to focus the image. There are a couple of approaches we tried for this. Initially, we looked at having a helicoid machined for the lens. This is essentially a large thread that the lens is screwed back and forth on. You can see that in the CAD here. Here's one of the early prototypes where, with a bit of persuasion, or a lot of persuasion, you can see that we can move that lens out by twisting the focus ring. We went as far as getting volume quotes for this to be machined. Unfortunately, it was too expensive, so we needed a different approach. A bit of investigation into the approach used by other manufacturers gave us the CAM option. This is a lomography Belergon lens, a bit of an unusual one, but underneath the focus ring here, it has a set of cams and cam followers that when you turn the focus ring, you can see it pushes the lens out. This led us to a design which is a combination of machined metal and plastic components. The cost of manufacture is much more reasonable than the helicoid design, and assembly is reasonably simple as well. Next, we need to prototype the lens. Whilst we have some machining capabilities in our own workshop, they're limited to 4-axis milling operations. The lens design requires some techniques we can't do. We used a local machine shop with a very skilled machinist called Graham to make the lens parts. He has a range of machines which are all manually operated. There's rarely a job he can't tackle. Probably the smallest custom manufactured parts in the lens are these little nylon bushes. They're essential to getting a smoothly operating focus on the lens, acting as cam followers. really fiddly. A dry fit of all the components is a great way to check they all fit together and have been made correctly. Graham had to adjust a few close-fitting dimensions for us, but these will be updated in any final design. These parts took a few weeks to get manufactured, and the additional feedback from being able to discuss the design with the machinist was invaluable and helps improve the final product. It's a beautiful morning, a little bit chilly, hence the hat. I'm outside in the garden because I need some space for this bit of engineering / science. I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm doing anodising of aluminium parts. So these are some of the parts for the camera. It's a lens part, tripod mount, lens board, and there's different steps. First one is we have to clean in caustic soda, which will be going in here. Then a rinse off the caustic soda in deionized water. Next step is the most interesting one. That's the anodising itself. It's where we pass electric current through the parts in a solution of sulfuric acid. It's between 12 and 24%. And then that's the longest time. That takes a couple of hours in there. Once that's done, you then move to the dyeing bath, and that the anodising leaves little tiny pores that the dye can be absorbed into. So after about 20 minutes, the dye should have been absorbed, and then they go into the camping stove where they're boiled, and that seals the pores, and you should have a final colour. Originally I was aiming for black. As you can see from this failed anodising, I didn't get enough anodising to create enough pores for the dye to take on this particular part. This one was a bit of a failure as well. I think it lost contact during anodising. The other parts came out gunmetal grey, which will do nicely for prototypes. Final product will be black. I've got all my notes for the stages I've got to do, and I'll show you the different bits in action. Caustic soda cleaning first. I'm going to add a bit of water into this dog bowl. Don't worry, the dog is not going to be using this. I bought these from the charity shop especially for this purpose, so no dogs are going to be harmed. Then caustic soda has about 10 grams required. Oh, picked up a bit of grass. Don't need that. Which is, I've worked out, is about a capful. That goes in. Probably needs a bit of a stir to get dissolving. I may need a little bit more water in a second. It's an exothermic reaction, so it generates heat. You don't want to use warm water, otherwise you can end up with it getting a bit too warm. I already feel a bit of heat in the bottom of there. I'm going to add some more water. Another stir. So the parts go in here for anything between 1 and 5 minutes. With the ones that have got failed anodising on them already, it'll be quite easy to work out when they're done, because all that anodising that failed on there will be gone. Drop those in. The other parts will just come out super sparkly clean. Okay, we've been running for about 3 minutes in this bath. The parts that didn't have failed anodising on already looking pretty good. Nice sort of clean looking finish. A little bit of what's called smut on them. Now normally you're supposed to do a de-smutting step, but I've never particularly needed that when I've tried this before. So I'm not going to suddenly start de-smutting step. What I am going to do is move the parts that are looking nice and clean into the wash bath, so deionized water to clean them off. All of those parts are now in the acid solution bath with positive connected up to each of the parts. You can see a bit of bubbling going on from, this is the lead cathode, I think, the aluminium part is the anode. Hopefully I've got that the right way round. And this is, the cathode is all connected up to 0 volts through this little power supply that's delivering the current. So these parts now need 2 hours in this bath before they're ready for dyeing. So go and have some lunch. Our anodising's done now, so I've got to remove all the parts, clean them in deionized water, and then they're going straight into this dye bath, which has been warmed up to about 35-40 degrees. I'm going to leave all the parts in that washing bath for the moment because I need one of these bars from the anodising tank across the top to hold them in the dye. So ideally you don't want them touching each other or touching the bottom of the dye tank, but we're not aiming for perfection here, just good enough. Oh, I'll create a problem for myself there. Okay, I've set up one of the bars across the dyeing tank. All my parts are now washed. It's time to hang them in the dye. Tight on space. They need about 20 minutes to half an hour in the dye. It's the ideal. Fully submerged. If you leave the parts sticking out at all, they end up with sort of tide marks on them, which is not what we want. Okay, last couple of parts here. Okay, 20 to 30 minutes dyeing. Here we go. Last part of the process now. Got the camping stove going. Water's just coming up to the boil, and my parts are finished dyeing. So you can see now they're not perfectly black, but I was looking for a gunmetal look to them, so that looks perfect to me. Now they get immersed in the boiling water. A bit of the dye comes out during this last bit of the process, but they should still be the colour I'm after. It's the other one. I'm all in. Now at this point it doesn't matter if the parts touch. Obviously you don't want to smash them into each other, but we're just sealing the pores on these aluminium parts. Get them all in. Just try and get that one submerged a bit better. Alright, and they need half an hour, I think, boiling. So this is the colour I'm trying to match here. This is one I did previously. So I think we're on for a pretty good match. Our parts are now machined and anodised. I've got a bag of bits. It's time to build a lens. there we have it, a finished prototype 100mm lens, machined out of aluminium and anodised gunmetal grey, complete with Waterhouse stops. All there is to do now is test it out. As is often the case with prototypes, we've already got some improvements we'd like to try. A true Wollaston design to improve the edge sharpness a little would be nice, but we're already pleased with the results from this prototype. I hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the design of the 100mm lens. If you've got any questions or comments, or there's anything else you'd like us to add to these videos, please put them in the comments on YouTube. And right now, I've got to get on with the design of the film holder for the camera. So for now, it's goodbye.